So you want to have the perfect start in Wuchang Fallen Feathers but don't know where to start? Well, this may be the video for you. Today we're going to take a look at all of the places and all of the cool loot that you can get within the first couple of hours to get yourself ready for the perfect start. And of course, many other things on top too, so without further ado, let's jump right in. Now, right from the get-go, we have a boss fight over here that gives us 5 skill points if we defeat it, but we only got one chance to do so. In this case, I'm gonna go ahead and prep a little bit and kind of get a build going with the Longsword, as that is one of my most comfortable weapons, but you can go with whatever you want. In this case, the default starting weapon is going to be good enough, but if you got the pre-order or deluxe edition bonuses, you can get some extra red fragments over here that we can pop in and get about like 10 levels, so we can at least invest into some extra points, but it's not like completely needed. However, what's most important is going with some extra healing potions over here. So besides our initial flasks, you're going to get some steam buns over here, plus some of the other like medicine fragments. Get all of them, everything that gives you healing, put them over here just in case. And once we're done, we're gonna go down the stairs to the right and we're gonna have an initial dialogue with the Straw Hat Man over here, which is going to give us that boss fight I was talking about that we only have one chance to defeat at this stage. So in this case, it's mostly going to be just a matter of dodging its jump attacks. It's almost always going to do one jump attack followed by another one, so be prepared to actually dodge 2 times in a row. This is going to help us build that Skyborn Might, and then we're gonna just spam our dash strikes when we have the opportunity to do that, if only the boss actually stops doing it. But otherwise, just stay on your feet. The barrage should be relatively easy to dodge over here. And like you can see, never anticipate just one attack. It's always going to be a series of attacks. Sometimes more than 2, sometimes even all the way up to 5. Now, like you can see over here, it's sometimes going to do these jet streams. Be careful about those. Better ones will follow up in just a little bit, that also have AoE damage explosions on the point of impact, so just be careful about that. For the time being, I'm trying to stick to its flank or behind it, but also trying to deal some damage to build that stagger meter. However, it seems that for the time being, it's just doing the jump attacks, which are some of the easiest to dodge right now. So yeah, that is it seems that the boss is actually going to just spam these for now, so this is going to be a very easy stun in just a little bit. One more attack and it should be good. Yeah, look at that, and it's done. So now that we got this, we can perform an obliterate. So going right at the head, boom, some really nice damage over there. And as it's on the ground, I'm following up with as many attacks as I can, so I can build more Skyborn Might and at least unleash, like you saw, that dash strike over there. Otherwise, just dodges, 1-2, 1-2 should be very easy. And now I think it's following up with some of the jet streams, maybe in just a little bit. Yeah, it's looking like, yeah, there you go. This was the one, so it's 1. And yeah, it exploded right there on the ground like I just told you. But it's a 1-2, so you have to be prepared to dodge one after the other just in case. After that, it's pretty much going to be back at the regular routine. So I'm just waiting for it to do its jump attacks and going in back with some dash strikes, just so I can get behind it and unleash some uninterrupted damage. And yeah, usually right here at the end is when it gets most hectic. It's literally like 1% HP, but I'm screwing things up. And there you go, it's pretty much done. And we got red Mercury essence times 5. So that's going to be your skill points that we can go ahead and invest right away into our skill tree. It's pretty much the equivalent of about like 10 to 20,000 red Mercury, which is actually quite a ton. So we're gonna go ahead right here and yeah, you just saw we got a couple of other items, not really that big. The maddening incense is actually pretty good since we do have the madness mechanic to take into account here too, but mostly I'm just going to invest those 5 extra skill points and get some of our starting builds going. Now, once you're done with the prep, now we can go ahead and progress in the game. Now, there's going to be some regular enemies, but we're going to keep it to the left side for a little bit and get a red feather from this guy, as that's going to help us increase our weapon mastery. So this is going to be a bit difficult early on, but if we get... Yeah, I just got absolutely blasted. Yeah, if we do this perfectly at the right time, we can actually perform sword counters, as that's one of the main abilities I unlocked in the skill tree. So once again... easy follow-up with the counter, and I think it needs one more hit. Fully stun. There you go. Obliterate. And it's GG's. We got a faint red feather ×1, so we're gonna need probably another one to get our first point of weapon mastery. From this point on, we're gonna follow the route as usual, take down these two enemies by the bonfire, and once we are outside the main courtyard, pay attention to this corpse over here, because we can get another weapon, which is one of our very first axes. Especially if you didn't get the pre-order or the deluxe edition bonuses, you're going to need this, and we're gonna get quite a few weapons in this video too. And from here, we're gonna progress further down the path and eventually talk to this guy. So this is going to give it its own story mission over here that we can follow, but for now we're just gonna have a quick conversation. Also, you get this bamboo lantern, so make sure you equip it. It's actually very good in dark spots and other caves. From now on though, we're gonna continue further down the path. There are some enemies over here, so you can go ahead and test out your weapon. Also, make sure you grab everything on the path, especially some of the red Mercury crystals, as that's going to be one of the main ways to further level up. Now we're almost ready for our next encounter, but right here on the way next to this river, we're gonna find this lady over here, and we're gonna have a quick conversation, because this is also important for her own quest line. However, she's also going to give us more of that red Mercury fragment. This time around it's going to be a much bigger one of 1200 point, so really useful. Also, before you actually leave, pay attention to these birds and go ahead and equip a quick throwable dagger. In this case, if we destroy this bird, it's going to give us a special feather that can buff our HP, stamina, or damage at random, which can be very helpful against boss fights. But from here, I'm just going to progress up the scaffolding all the way to the next save point shrine. Also, quick note, since we got an offhand weapon as well, we can actually spend some of the Skyborn might to quick switch and immediately unleash the weapon technique of our offhand weapon. Like you can see over here, after the longsword attack, I can just unleash my axe attack, which is actually really devastating. But depending on the offhand weapon you have, some of them can have very strong techniques, so it may be worth it to have this mechanic at play. It's not mandatory, but it can be very helpful against certain situations. From here, we're just gonna normally progress through the caves. You're also going to get one of your first spells over here, which, by the way, we're going to incorporate into a build later down the line. That's very useful early on. Now, eventually you're going to reach this room with some of these monks, and I do recommend to take down the sleeping monks as well after performing like the obliterate over here. They have a chance to drop their robes, and these robes are actually really good. They provide some pretty decent anti, let's just say, physical damage, but also a lot of corruption resistance, which we're gonna need in the phases ahead. So I'm just trying to see if one of them drops it, and well, actually, yeah, it seems that... yeah, one of them actually did drop the fake monk robe over here that we can go ahead and take. As you can see, the slash, blunt, and stab damage is just a little bit lower than what we currently have, but look at that massive corruption resistance, plus 58, which is actually really big. So I'm going to go ahead and equip it right away. But from this point on, now we're gonna have a boss encounter right here. So Palace Maid, which is going to be a good example to showcase why perfect blocks and why attacks from behind are so good at staggering these medium-sized bosses. If only I can actually get my proper sword counter in. Some of her attacks are sometimes a bit hard to predict, but like, just give me a second over here. yeah, there you go. Boom, obliterate, stun, and it's pretty much GG's. Yeah, it does a bit too quickly for me to show you the attack from behind, but you will probably see it to the next boss. We did get an important upgrade, a benediction upgrade basically for our weapon, so we can go ahead and apply it right away. For the oath, we got Skyborn Might reduces damage taken for a time, so when we produce Skyborn Might, which is pretty much all the time, we're gonna get some damage mitigation, so that's going to be quite helpful. But for now, I will progress on this path further down so we can get our first flask upgrade from the treasure chest we saw from the other side. So in this case, it's going to be a lost remembrance, which is going to further increase the potency of our flask. We're going to later on get another item that increases the number of charges we get for them. And from this point on, we're going to now progress to the normal path once again. Here, be careful at the enemy ambush. There you go, sword counter, and boom. But we're gonna take this item, which is important for the character we just meet. The guy over there needs a lost package for some clue investigation, so we're gonna go ahead and grab it. As you can see over here, yeah, it's for he, you as I, so that's very important. But we also got another feather, I believe, over here. So we're gonna take down this target and also grab this off the ground. And on the next shrine, we can go ahead and level up our weapon mastery. Now, before I go down the normal path, I'm going to first go to this small enemy camp and get the next spear weapon. In this case, quickly dispatching them with a dash strike, and right here behind the bonfire, we're gonna get the Red-Tasseled spear. In case, again, you don't have the deluxe edition bonuses but want to play with the spear, this can be a very solid option early on, but there's a better one we're gonna get in just a little bit. Now, I'm still not going to go on the regular path. Instead, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Here behind, there's going to be another camp. We can grab this item off the ground, which is basically a full set. Very good against corruption, but also very low in terms of physical damage mitigation. But in this case, we can showcase a little bit of that spear and how good one of its technique attacks can be. But otherwise, going back on track and following the main road just like before. Once again, we're gonna get another ambush going on, so sword counter right there, coming in clutch, helping the taunt, and done. But yeah, there's gonna be an enemy ambushing us from behind too, so that's going to happen quite a bit in this level. Now, before we actually go further, I'm just gonna grab these spots off the ground. These will come in handy in just a little bit, but for the time being, I will backtrack a little bit and go up an adjacent route that gives us an important talisman. And it should be right here at the end with these two monks. Do be careful because they can absolutely blast you. Once you're done, however, you're going to get an anti-burn pendant on the ground. And this is pretty much going to double your burning resistance from about 120 plus to 245, which is going to be really good against one of the bosses we're going to fight in literally the next few minutes. But for the time being, I'm just going to progress back to where we just collected those exploding pots right before that. And what I'm going to be doing over here is I'm going to go ahead, equip those spots so that I can instantly take down these enemies. For some reason, they enjoy staying around explosives, but there you go, pretty much one shot, making it much easier. However, pay attention to this table right in front of us. There's going to be another important weapon here, a one-handed sword that's really good for spellcasting. It's Darkfrost Edge, and it kind of has an auto dodge baked into its R1 ability that kind of replicates a very strong endgame spell we're gonna get. But for the time being, it's a pretty decent option to have, and it also scales off agility in case we want that, but we're gonna get other better options a bit later down the line. But now that we're done with this, I'm gonna go to the nearby shrine, save over there, and also invest those 2 red feathers to increase my weapon mastery. This is pretty much done through some of these nodes right here, like the strong blade. It consumes 2 of them to give me +1 weapon mastery, which is going to be a massive damage increase as it is. But yeah, the cost will increase exponentially, and we're gonna even find other tiers of red feathers later down the line. For the time being though, I'm also going to talk to this guy over here who needs some help. He's going to give us a very good set of items from this point on. So Wuchang, definitely save him, and you're going to eventually have to retrieve some items for him, and he's going to progressively give you access to more items, more gear, more weapons, and so on. But for the time being, once we're done with that, I'm going to keep it over here in the shack nearby, and there's going to be another red feather through one of these jar enemies. However, keep in mind that these can be very strong. Like you can see, almost got blasted by its melee attacks. Also, it does ranged poison attacks that create blight buildup, which will reduce your maximum HP, so be careful about that. Spam attacks, use heavy attacks, and try to dodge or even stay behind it as much as you can. Now, there are a couple more things over here that we can get before going to the final boss encounter in the area. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and take down these enemies over here. Once we're done, we can go in the shack behind them, and here to the right side, we're going to find another red feather right here in front of us. So that's going to be 2 out of 4 that we need for the next mastery. There is another enemy in the area here by the door. That door will be opened only after we get the key from defeating the next boss. So for the time being, get whatever you can and go back, rest a little bit, and get as many points as you can to further level up a little bit more. Now from here on out, we're ready to go into the next area towards the boss. Now, in case you missed that fake monk robe in the previous section, there are 5 fake monks over here that you can go ahead and try your luck with, and they should have a pretty decent chance to drop that for you. But otherwise, there is one important thing here we can get, which is this treasure chest that will increase the number of flask charges we have. However, do take down the ambushing enemy before that. So in this case, if we grab it, it's going to give us lost remains this time around, and that's what's going to increase our number of flask charges. There are a couple more over here that you can also go ahead and take down again if you want to try out your luck. Once done, we can now go ahead and invest that point right here into our charge. Do keep in mind, however, that you have to actually rest to have that refresh so that you can see 4 charges of the mana flask instead of just 3. However, here before the boss encounter, we're gonna find another room, and inside of it, there's going to be a golden bowl, exactly what we need for Wuchang, so that it increases its number of available items. So more on that in just a little bit, but for now, just grab it. And now I'm going to go ahead and take on the boss. In this case, I'm going to again try to get behind it and follow up with a Skyborn Might heavy attack. So just like that, if it stays still, boom, instant stun, following up with an obliterate. This is like one of your main, let's just say, strategies early on for some of these mid-sized bosses. It's going to help a ton. You're just going to have to be on your toes about generating Skyborn Might, because as you can see, if I don't use a heavy attack with Skyborn Might, it doesn't do it automatically, and it's not as strong, so it's not going to automatically stun the boss right away unless I hold down the button and charge it. So in this case, because I don't want to do that, I'm gonna wait for an attack that I can auto dodge through or perfect dodge through, so that I can do a Skyborn Might version instead. There you go, going behind it, really easy, another stun, and boom, there you have it. We even got like 0 damage so far. So just building up a little bit more of that, doing some damage where I can, doing another easy dodge over here, and boom, yet again. This guy is very slow, so like I told you, early on bosses are actually very, very manageable. But now, we just got a very important mechanic called the Temperance. Like you just saw, we got both the Temperance item and a Fire Temperance needle, and this is going to be something that increases our damage so much. So let me show it to you in just a little bit. So we can place down one of these needles right inside of it. That's going to give us access to the fire attack power. But to actually activate that in the first place, we need to also equip the Temperance activation item right here into our quick items menu, so that we can actually activate this with square like every other consumable item. But from this point on, we're just gonna follow back at the shrine, so not much to do anymore in this place. Instead, what I'm going to be doing is going to that door I was talking about, and we're going to now use the key to open up the next area. Right here, as you take the corner really quickly, pay attention to this bamboozling that emerges from the ground and immediately try to destroy it. You only have like a couple of seconds before it runs away. So luckily the longsword has a leap attack that's very easy to like just catch these guys off guard. We're gonna use that bamboo shoot in just a little bit to grab a really good weapon, plus other items later down the line. And right here, we're gonna get to another questline NPC, Nyan, whatever his name or her name is in this case. That's going to be a very good summon because we can see we just got the bone whistle from her, which is going to help us in one of the future fights. Many future fights actually will benefit from it. But from this point on, our main path is going to be upwards. However, there are some things here to the right side instead. Quite a few that are very, very good. So one of them is going to be a child here that we can go ahead and find. This guy right here, it's very important to actually help him and hand over some of these toys that we're going to eventually find. Somehow he hisses at me for some reason. But otherwise, just grabbing everything we can in the area, and from this point on, we do have a few more things lingering here, especially surrounding this house. But before we actually go into it, I want to show you another location for an important discipline upgrade. So just follow my path. As usual, we're gonna go down right here, right side, just going down this path towards a burning forest. Once you're here in the back, you should see that there's an item at the lower part of this tree, which is going to be Skyborn magic. This is going to be an upgrade to your weapon that gives you extra spell damage when you generate Skyborn might. That's going to be very useful for that one-handed sword build I was talking about, but more on that a little bit later. For the time being, we're just going to backtrack to the house we were at and the bridge, of course. But before we actually go to it, instead, now we're going to take it to the right side once again, progressing further upwards. Here, be careful because there's going to be yet another one of those bamboozlings. That's going to be our second bamboo shoot. However, before we actually leave, pay attention to the cave opening to your left and go inside it. There are two important characters we're gonna have to talk to over here. The first one is going to be the storyteller, so go ahead and exhaust all dialogues. The second one is going to be further up these stairs. Like I said, we need to use those bamboo shoots. And guess what? Here is where we first find the Panda guy to buy some of the items. So early on, we can actually go ahead and buy a steam-powered spear, which I'm going to go ahead and do because it's a very good one. The steam chain like technique over there with the R1 is very strong. It gives us a flame tornado basically. It's an AoE move that's really good, and I kind of like using this as an offhand weapon to switch to it when I have Skyborn Might and kind of implement it into my own rotation. But you also have this spell over here that we're gonna come back for later on. The Divine Word just gives you quite a bit of damage mitigation, so very good when you're having difficulties. But otherwise, you're then going to backtrack and go back at the house I was talking about. In this area, just try to discover everything you can. The only thing that remains over here is a bunch of enemies and a bunch of Mercury sprouts. Once you're done with that, however, it's time to go back to our main route over here with the stairs going upwards. So in this case, just follow the route over here. There are some conversations you can have with some of the NPCs behind doors that can give you some pretty useful consumables, but for the time being, I'm going to progress further upwards. I'm not going to take it to the right side. Instead, I will go to the left, and we can get a really good armor set from this Ming Dynasty warrior right here. Just be careful because his attacks are actually much quicker than you think it is. So I'm going to try to use the Temperance mechanic against it, if only it gives me a chance to do so. So just drink up really quickly. There you go. Sword counter. Boom. Just be careful because he doesn't flinch. So you're going to have to actually build a stagger meter instead. But luckily, with the sword counter, it shouldn't be too difficult. And I'm trying to squeeze in a few more hits. There you go. There's also the weapon switching like I told you, and boom, we have a stun with an obliterate, and from this point on it should be easy. I mean, even the range on this weapon is actually really good, so yeah, that's why you should also take that a really good spear. Like you just saw, we got a Ming Dynasty armor set right away, plus another red Mercury essence, so another skill point. This is actually a pretty decent option to have if you don't have the deluxe edition bonuses. This armor is really good against physical damage, so early on can help quite a bit, plus also quite helpful against burn resistance, or well, it gives you burn resistance. Now from this point on, what we can do is go further up towards the temple. However, pay attention to this statue here to your right side. It gives you a clue to pay your respects. Basically, just play the worship emote, which is going to give you a pretty good item. This can help to clear out madness at one of the statues inside of the temple itself. Now, there's one more item that's very good for buffing my counters even more, but for that we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit before the temple. So in this case, going to that route to the right I was talking about, we're gonna go behind this house over here. And once you get close to the middle section, stay a little bit, because there's going to be an enemy emerging over there and it can definitely wreck you. However, once that's done, now you have clear path to go inside and open up this treasure chest here in front of you. And this is going to give you the counter force. This is going to make your counters so much better. And that's going to be something that you're going to be doing a lot with the longsword. Otherwise, clear out any other enemies and then just go up this ladder over here into the next area that was previously inaccessible. Before we actually enter the temple, there is another enemy we have to defeat, a jar enemy for the 4th red feather, so we can get another mastery upgrade. So in this case, go behind this house again, defeat it, and it's going to give you the red feather once again. And now we're pretty much ready to go to the temple, because this is just going to be the other route that brings us to another one of the temple's entrances. So once you go inside, we can just go ahead, rest at the shrine over here, which is also going to make our samurai companion appear once again, which we can go ahead and talk to. However, also go ahead and talk to the other NPCs. You will see that Wuchang also made his appearance, and I suggest going ahead and buying the Skyborn Vigor from it. This is going to increase stamina recovery during Skyborn Might, so you really need a lot of stamina at this stage. Besides that, you can also go ahead and give him the golden bowl. What this does is it opens up this golden armor set for you that's actually quite decent. It gives you like the best of both worlds, both physical resist and some of that corruption resist too, in case you don't have another alternative. Plus, it opens up a couple more items here down the line. Besides that, also talk to this guy, to Tao Ching. If we give him the item we got from the previous boss, the copper jug, is going to open up another set of armors in this case, which are also very good against corruption, but not that great against physical damage, so just pick your poison. We also got a couple more characters upstairs, so exhaust their dialogues as you also have some quest lines for them. But besides that, I'm going to go ahead, equip the flute in this case for the summon, and we're gonna make our way to the boss at the top of the temple. On the way there, just make sure that you grab the bloodied letter from the body in front of the entrance. And also make sure that you equip some of these purple camellias that will help a ton with corruption mitigation. So in case you get corruption on you, this can help quite a bit. But from this point on, we're gonna go inside, and just to show you, we can use the flute now, and this is going to also summon Yan, which is going to help us in combat, so that's going to help quite a bit.
Take this.
But otherwise, even without her, this boss encounter is really easy. Again, like in the case of all bosses, attack from behind, and that's going to be an instant stun. In this case, if you want to, you can also use the Temperance, which equally will deal even more damage actually. So once you create the build up, it's going to be pretty much GG's. And that's going to be done with the temple area as well. From this point on, yeah, we got an echo ability once again. We can reduce the cost of that in just a little bit. But for the time being, I'm going to go down at the first floor, and now since we have the key, we can activate the Shoe Sanctum mechanism over here to open up an area below where we will get our very first and strongest weapon at this stage, so a very good whip longsword. For the time being, I'm going to talk to Tao Ching, give him the extra sets of boss items over here, which is going to unlock yet another couple of gear pieces. So in this case, another really cool set of armor that you can go ahead and buy. But from now on, we really need that awesome sword, so I'm going to make my way downwards and just follow the path from this point on all the way to the first shrine and save to it. And from here, it's a very short path down this slope here that kind of goes around whatever this thing in the center is. So in this case, just follow it all the way up until you find these two enemies with weapons. So you can even see like the yellow outline over there. After you defeat these two, you should be able to grab the sword right from this formation of corruption. So that's going to be the Lashing Whip. This is going to carry you pretty much all the way into the end game. I'm not gonna lie, it's a very good sword, has some very good multipliers for both strength and agility. And as you can see, its unique effect is that it has very good range. It's a sword and a whip, so its attacks are much further reaching than any other longsword in the game. But once you're done with that, go back at the shrine in the area and we're gonna teleport back to the Shu Sanctum, where we do have one more conversation. So after we defeated that monk encounter, the boss over there, now we can hand over the Mercurial blood, and this is going to progress his story and bring him back to the previous Revenant Temple. And as you can see, we have 4 NPC quest givers over here to talk to, so we're gonna go there right away and speak to all of them. So you over here, for giving in the bloody letter, she is going to give us another pendant, which is pretty good at damage mitigation, but be careful because it increases your stamina consumption. Also going inside, we can go ahead and talk to the Straw Hat Woman once again. She now saved her brother over here, so she's going to further progress into her own quest line, and the same goes with the monk too. And then you're pretty much done with all the conversations for now. However, keep in mind that while you're here in the Worship Rise, what you can do is also go down this path all the way back out of the main courtyard and instead take this upwards hill all the way here with the child behind some of these, let's just say like wood structures. In this case, you can progress in the dialogue as that's going to also be part of some sort of quest line. Besides this, we're gonna be done with this, so now we're ready to go back at the Shu Temple. And in this case, what I'm going to be doing is instead go back down where we fought that Ming Dynasty warrior, and we have a small separation over here. However, that's going to give us an invisible bridge we can walk over. And from this point on, follow my route like how I am right here, defeat these enemies, and right here there's going to be another weapon we can grab, a pretty good set of dual blades. But just be careful because you're going to get ambushed by one of these bigger ogres. Once you're done with that, you're going to grab this Unequilibrium blade on the ground, which is actually pretty decent if you don't have another pre-order option. From this point on, just make your way upwards, and we're gonna wait here at the 4-way intersection. You may have to defeat an enemy though. And from this point on, we're gonna grab an important key over here that opens up another area we're gonna be into. So here, take down all the enemies, and it's actually the house to your right side as you enter that you have to go ahead, clear the enemies for, and speak to the citizens inside. Agree to help, and that's going to give you the courtyard key that we need for the bit ahead. From here though, we're gonna go back to the main intersection and keep it to the left side, then left again, as this is going to bring us to a location where we can open up a shortcut to the main temple area. Once that's opened, we have another blocking clash item we can get from over here. So as you make your way back, pay attention to your left side. There's going to be a shack up this hill. If you go ahead and defeat the enemies inside and then open up the treasure chest, you're going to get a blocking clash. So this is going to increase the potency of blocks and clashes, not only helping your longswords, but also dual blades and others as well. But in this case, otherwise, we're just going to continue up the path that we have left uncovered. You can even go ahead and defeat this ogre here to your left again. This gives you another pretty interesting upgrade for your weapon that you can go ahead and grab. Besides this, we're going to progress further up, and from this point on, we're in the area where we can use that pair of keys we got from before, just clearing out a couple of the enemies nearby. So in this case, we're going to go inside of this smaller courtyard. Do, however, be careful because you will get ambushed over here and it can be quite bloody. But once you're done with that, now we can go ahead and use the key, the courtyard key right here to open up the secret entrance. And inside, you're going to discover a bunch of mysteries going all the way on the top floor. First things first, you're going to get a new armor set. This is the Militia armor. However, I'm not gonna lie, it's not really that great. However, going in the back over here, you can go ahead and retrieve the damage letter, as well as anything else that you have left uncovered. From this point on, we're ready to just go up the path. Just be careful at any boulders trying to ambush you, and you can also use the ladders to go on some of these rooftops and collect even more of those red fragments so that you can level up even quicker. By the way, to go past the blockade in this area into the next one, you're going to need to go here at this house, and there's going to be a ladder that brings you to its own rooftop that you can go ahead and climb, and this is going to eventually bring you to the other side. But before we actually jump down, there's an easy way to take down the very strong enemy in this area by using, you guessed it, explosive pods. So in this case, equip them and also make use of the other explosive pods on the ground that you can see. I'm going to try to actually lure it in towards one of them. So there you go, it's in position, and boom, pretty much one shot. Plus it gives us an Infernal Flame spell, which is actually pretty good, and a figurine that we can give to that snake boy over there with the jar on its head. So more on that in just a little bit. For now, I'm just going to follow here behind this house and drop down through the roof. That's going to give us access to another weapon upgrade, the Plunging Force, in case you are using some of those. But besides that, we can now go back down and even open up another shortcut over here, so that's going to also be quite helpful. Make sure that you grab any other red fragments and consumables off the ground, and before you leave, to the right side over here, you can open up yet another shortcut that also eventually brings you back to the temple. Otherwise, we're going to keep to the left this time around and take a mental note of this Torii Gate or whatever it is called, because behind it there's going to be a route that brings us to a special location. However, we may be a bit underpowered for that a little bit now, so just keep it in mind for now, and we're going to come in back in just a little bit. For the time being, we're going to progress in this location, take down any enemies, and here to the left you can open up another door to another adjacent path. This is going to bring you to another bamboozling, but also with a bunch of enemies ambushing you, so destroy that and be on your toes. One of them is going to be a jar that gives you a faint red feather, but also take down some of the other smaller fries too. There's an additional red feather here we can grab, plus many more enemies and consumables we can grab both inside the houses as well as from their rooftops. Once we cleared the area, we can now go ahead towards the boss room. However, before we actually do that, let's go back to the temple via a shortcut, rest, upgrade a little bit, and then come back here, as this boss may be a bit more difficult. So in this case, we can go here by this tree, hit it, and now we go straight to the second floor of the Shu Temple. And from this point on, I'm just gonna go ahead, save a little bit over here, and also try to buff my character as much as I can. We got quite a bit of those red fragments that we can consume, get more points, more levels, and by this stage, we're like almost level 30, which is going to be very helpful. Plus, you can go ahead and now equip in the benediction slots all of the items we got. So the blocking clash, we also want the Skyborn vigor for the extra stamina, as well as the counter force, which is going to make our counter build now almost complete. And from this point on, we can now backtrack to the location and go ahead and fight our first boss in the area. In this case, buff up and go inside. Now this is going to be a high corruption enemy, so be careful at its water, well, bloodstream attacks in this case. But just like in the case of the previous ones, if you stay in the flank, so on the sides of it or in the back, you can avoid most of its attacks. Just be careful with the stamina over here. Like you can see, I was kind of messing things up and not having enough. But otherwise, dodging should be easy. This boss doesn't really move that much, only occasionally, so you're going to want to be careful to its attacks and try to generate Skyborn Might while staying to its flanks. Now here it's going to enter another phase, and eventually we'll even do a scream. You're going to have to be on your toes and spam B in case it does it, so that you don't get caught into its next attack. So yeah, like you can see, spamming B here to get out of it and also escape its devastating like corruption attacks. You really don't want to get caught in that. Okay, I got hit. Also at 25% it kind of does this phase where it just stands still and doesn't do anything, just watches in disbelief. So be sure to actually follow in quickly with a bunch of attacks. But there you go, stagger, obliterate, and it's pretty much GG. And now that Lung Hongliu is defeated, we can go back to the Temple of Shu, and in this case talk to the two female characters here. So the old lady at the top here, we can also hand in one of these items that we got from the boss, which is going to help us get another faint red feather from her. And going downstairs, we can also talk to this woman, which if we talk 2 times, once right now and another time after we rest, she's going to give us a pin, also an emote, and then we'll move on to the next location. Also, since we use the Courtyard Key, we can go back to the shack we got it from, talk to the lady over there again, and give her all the information. In this case, I gave her both of the items, so the damage letter as well as the figurine that I got in the area, which progressed the story from this point on for this character. And upon going back to the Temple of Shu, I was able to talk to Tao Ching, which now had an extra dialogue as well. But first I did is handing over the item I got from the previous boss encounter, which gave me access to some more items, including the Fiend Felling Pendant. I really recommend this when you're fighting large enemies. This can give you some bonus damage. But you also get this new dialogue here. This water is freezing, so if you talk to him, that's going to also count towards that side quest. Besides this, you can also go all the way to these houses with all of the ladders in the area. We even opened the shortcut before, so in this case you can just defeat the enemies and grab all of the remaining consumables. You will even find another jar enemy here you can defeat for yet another red feather. Now we're almost ready to go to that adjacent path I was talking about before, but before we do that, going back to the Temple of Shu, going up this tree we used as a shortcut before, we're now going to go further here to the right and up this hill, as we do have a couple of encounters here really quickly. So one is going to be straight up the path, keeping it to the left all the way at the top of the hill. You may even find some other enemies on the way too. However, here you will find one of these other Madness Corrupted enemies. Again, be ready with the perfect counters, obliterate, and it's pretty much going to be done. We got another red feather out of it. Plus, opening up this small treasure chest is going to give us another weapon upgrade, vitality power in case you need it. There's also a puzzle over here. The look in this case is the hint, so you're gonna have to just use the gaze emote, which is going to eventually give you another item, a very strong consumable actually that I would suggest keeping for a very tough boss encounter. This is going to give you a ton of HP. From this point on, we're going to go downwards a little bit, and now we're gonna go into another new area to open up more shortcuts from the temple. In this case, just make sure that you take down any enemy on the way. Once we are here, you can talk to the monk once again and just progress in its dialogues for the next bit. But whatever you do, just stay close to the temple and just follow the same route I do. Here you're going to reach this location, another village portion with a bunch of enemies and dogs. And what I'm going to be doing is actually go here to the left. There's another important item, wild weapon, that we can grab in the area. So there are like 5 enemies over here with some fire attacks. Just go ahead and defeat them. And now we can go ahead and also grab the weapon, the firearm blades over here. These come with a very interesting mechanic that pretty much let you dodge, shoot when you perform the R1 technique. Before you leave though, look at your left side, go up the stairs all the way inside of the shack over here. There's going to be another jar enemy you can defeat for yet another faint red feather. And from this point on, just clear out any other enemy you may find. There's one on the rooftop over here, another one of those Ming soldiers, but it doesn't seem to give you anything. You can also drop down here and unlock 2 shortcuts, one directly on the path to the temple and another one to the location with the panda. In this case, both of them work just fine. You can even go by the side of the temple with the 2 ogre enemies in the area. Once you defeat them, you're going to find yet another red faint feather to upgrade another one of your weapons. And now that we're done with this, we have enough to go ahead, level up whatever we can, get as much as we can, HP and whatnot, and go to that adjacent route I was talking about. So this is not going to be like too difficult at this stage, but there are some bosses in this area. You will reach this sort of temple location that you have to navigate through, grab everything, but essentially you're going to find this route to your right side from the entrance. If you go up there, up the bridge and into the next courtyard, you're going to find this ogre boss. This is going to be a bit more difficult than other ogres, but if you defeat it, you're going to get a pretty special couple of items. One of them is going to be another red feather, but the other one is going to be a scenic painting that we can bring back to Wuchang. Besides that, if we backtrack to the main courtyard once again, we can just retrieve everything else that's left. But also, going from one of the main buildings, you can follow the same route I am to another special encounter. So going behind this, down the slope all the way towards this gazebo. The moment you get close to it, you will see you get invaded by another clone. This is going to be more difficult than your own inner demon when you reach 100% madness. So these are special encounters that only pop off in specific locations. However, once you defeat them, you're going to get 2 important resources. One is going to be the bow blood, which you're going to need in your skill tree to upgrade one of the madness related mechanic nodes. And the other one is that you're also going to get a needle. In this case, we got an agility version, so that's going to increase our agility multiplier for whichever weapon we have equipped. But there's also strength versions and so on and so forth. Also, make sure that you grab the pendant nearby. This reduces the amount of red mercury that you drop when dying. Pretty neat if you do that quite often. Going back at the Shu Temple, giving in that painting to Wuchang, the only thing that seems to unlock is basically some of these gifts that reduce your madness, and that is basically it. But now that we're done with that, it's time to finish the underground section of the Warship's Rise, going right here at the Mercury's workshop. And from this point on, we're going to go to the area above us, but for that, we're going to need to go here, drop down below, and follow this path. Right around the middle part of this next section, you're going to find yet another bamboozling, so just make sure that you destroy it before it runs away. Push deeper into the cave ahead, be mindful at the trap, and here you're going to get another red feather. From here, we're going to go to the opposite end of the circular platform, so just make your way the way I do. Eventually, you are going to see a bunch of these treasure chest enemies, so either take them down or ignore them, the choice is yours. From this point on, simply follow the same route as I am all the way until you see an opening to your left side. This will bring you in yet another tunnel with a bunch more traps you're going to want to avoid. Now at the end, we're going to get an item over here before opening up the shortcut, and that's going to give us the Dracolic Pendant. So this is going to be very good against some of the enemies that constantly scream, and even works against some of the bosses. Once we're done with that, we can then drop back again at the Mercury waypoint and now follow the regular path, going by this circular platform downwards. Again, if you missed out the Whip Greatsword, you can now go ahead and get it right now. But otherwise, we can now push past those enemies and just follow this route so we can open up the elevator shaft further down the line. Right before exiting the tunnel though, there's going to be another madness enemy that you're going to want to take down. Be careful because this is going to be rather difficult to defeat. However, it is going to drop yet another red feather if you want to further upgrade your weapon mastery. From here, we can take the ladder downwards, and this is going to bring us very close to the elevator shaft that we can now unlock to basically get a shortcut all the way back at the Mercury waypoint. We can now use this from this point on to further go deeper into the dungeon. From this point on, we're going to make our way at the bottom of the shaft once again, and this time around take it up these bridges over here and go to the circular platform once again. You're going to see something here on the side with a branch, so grab the item and this is going to make you fall below. From this point on, turn around, go to the left, and just follow the bridges yet again all the way until you find a bunch of ladders. Once done, simply follow the path inside another tunnel with even more traps that you're going to want to avoid. At the end of this, you're going to find yet another treasure chest that's going to give you a Phoenix pendant and also lets you open up the large door over here, giving you yet another shortcut. By the way, this is going to increase the ailment buildup of thrown attacks, so not the greatest, but at least you unlocked a new item. However, from this point on, we're going to push even deeper into the dungeon, getting closer to the lower levels. Simply make use of the ladders and try to avoid any enemies. Once you're down all the way to the second ladder, you're going to find yet another elevator shaft that you can go ahead and unlock. This is going to give you another shortcut to the previous elevator area, which itself will bring you all the way back to the top. Now we're almost out of the zone, however we need to keep pushing a bit further here to the right side and just make our way to the main bridge in the area. Once you are at the bridge, cross it, defeat any enemy that lingers, and pay attention to this corpse over here with a bunch of items. One gives you some lost remains to upgrade your flasks, but also pay attention to the twin pendant over here. This is going to be one of the best stamina pendants early on that pretty much gives you a lot of stamina regeneration that you really need even at later stages. From this point on, we're just going to follow the path yet again onto the opposite end. Here we're going to find yet another bridge with a ton of items to collect. However, as I'm sure you might have guessed, we are going to get ambushed in this area as well. However, if you want to dispatch the enemies, doesn't really matter, just push forward, go to the right, and then keep on all the way almost at the end. Eventually you're going to see an opening to your left side, so just follow this into the bandit's cave, making your way all the way to the next waypoint. And this is going to be one of the last waypoints before the next boss encounter and the one that lets you exit Warship's Rise. Whatever you do in the area, make sure that you're well prepared because the next boss is going to be a bit more difficult. But since we got a very good build over here as it is, we're going to go ahead and also make use of Temperance. So fire is actually excellent against this boss, setting it on fire and giving us a ton of bonus damage. In this case, what you can also use are some of these electric pillars. They will pretty much immediately stun lock the boss for a good number of seconds, time in which you can easily unleash a ton of extra attacks. But once that is done, you're going to notice that the boss enters its next phase. First of all, it's going to cast this really annoying sort of laser beam ability, and then it's going to go beneath the ground and will emerge against you, dealing some extra damage right about like 3 or 4 times. In this case, you can totally aim so that the last 4th one makes the boss emerge next to one of those other pillars, so in case it attacks you again, it's going to also get stunned immediately. Case in which you can again follow up with even more attacks. And from here, it's just to rinse and repeat the same strategy over and over while being mindful of its attacks. I recommend again staying to its flanks and even backsides to avoid the majority of its damage. If you manage to get a stun in, that's going to be even better because you can follow up with an obliterate. So this one coincided with the final blow, which was pretty cinematic in my opinion to take the boss down. And congratulations, this gave you the remaining items that you need to pretty much get the perfect build going from this point on. So now that we're done with this, we're ready to go back to the Shu Sanctum, and now given the items we saw from the boss dropping to Tao Ching, which is now going to unlock this really awesome Centipede armor set, which is going to be one of the best at physical damage mitigation. Pretty much will last you even towards the end game, so it's really good, but do keep in mind that it doesn't really have many resistances to ailments, so corruption, despair, and all of that, forget about it. Use this as you're fighting enemies that have a lot of physical attacks. It also looks really cool, but you also get some other items, including the bird pendant, which is going to increase your magic damage by quite a bit, especially useful if you're using a magic build. And now we can also go ahead and talk to the Taoist back at the main temple, and that's going to be pretty much it for now in terms of the perfect start, and you should be done with the majority of stuff that awaits you in Worship's Rise. Again, let me know down below in the comments if I missed anything, and also if you found this video useful. Do not forget to also subscribe to the channel and also activate that notification bell. More videos coming, so stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next one.